We're up to chapter 27, verse 1. You got it, Moshe? Vatikravna beno tzlafhcad ben Chefer ben Gilad ben Machir ben Menashe. You have a whole thing. The daughters of tzlafhcad, who was the son of Chefer, the son of Gilad, the son of Machir, the son of Menashe, from the tribes of Menashe, Ben Yosef, the Elash Mos ben Osav. So they came close, and these are the names of his daughters: Macho Noah, Chagla Milka V'Tirtza. Okay, let's see what Rashi has to say about this powerful incident. So, Moshe, you read us the first Rashi. You read for us, Moshe. When Mishpachot Menashe ben Yosef, and the families of Menashe and the son of Yosef, we had the obvious question: why does he need to name all these names? Because Rashi, sometimes it goes all the way back, and sometimes it doesn't go all the way back. Could have just stopped at Menashe. It could have. It didn't have to say Yosef. So it says Lama Nemar. It already says. So now Rashi's question is different. He says, why does it have to say L'mishpacha Menashe, from the family of Menashe, when it already says that he was Ben Machir Ben Menashe? So it says it twice. Right? Go on. So he's to tell us, Yosef Yosef loved the land. He held the land precious. As it says, he says at the end of Sefer Bereshis, he begs them to bring up his bones, which they did. Just like he loved the land, so too did his daughters, as it states, to Noah and Achuza. So go on. So it's teaching us that everybody here was a tzaddik, just like Joseph was a tzaddik, and also his great granddaughters were tzaddikim as well, and because they all loved the land. Go on. Okay, so now Rashi, tzaddik ben tzaddik. So Rashi teaching us a methodological way of reading the Torah, that whenever it lists the ancestry, and it doesn't tell us about the ancestors, it just tells us about one person's actions, it's telling us that it's a credit to them. So it's a righteous one, the son of a righteous one. Go on. And if it's Ganai, and if he traced it for, and sometimes the Torah is giving the lineage not to praise him, but to discredit him. Sometimes it's a shevach, and here it could have been, it's a shevach because God says tzlafhcad is right. But sometimes it's a gnai. So what's an example? Who is that? So Yishmael was the one who killed Gedaliah, the son of Achikam. And that's why we fast, Tzom Gedaliah. So it's telling us Yishmael, the son of Netanya, the son of Elishama. So that's telling us that they were all Biadua, Shekon Iskarmi, Mel Rishayim. It's telling us that they're all wicked. Okay, very good, Moshe. Excellent. You follow that, Moshe? You got it? Okay, go on. Read the next Rashi. Hold on 1 second. Rabbi Yosef has something to add. Hold on. Rabbi Yosef, what are you adding to this conversation?
Korach, Rashi said that it stopped with Levi because they didn't want to go to Yaakov, but Kehat and Levi weren't Rishayim.
Yeah, but the point is that Rashi's saying this is only, and it's a very good question, but Rashi gives us the answer. He says, Shekomi Shemasav Umase Avosav Sisumim. If there, sometimes it gives the traces the ancestry when we know about their deeds. So if we know about their deeds, then they're not the same. It's only when we don't know about their deeds. So Kahas and Levi, we know about their deeds, so therefore it's not the same.
Thank you.
All right, Shekoyach. Okay, next Rashi, Macha Noah. So here it says Macha Noah Chagom Milka Utirza, but later on it lists their names as Macha Tirza, Chagom Milka, and Noah. It doesn't list them in the same order. So why are they listed differently? To tell us they're all equal. Shina Kosovo Sidron. That's why the Torah changes their order to tell us that they're all equal. Okay. Now we go on to the next pasuk. Vatamono if they Moshe if they Elazar Kohen if they Nesiim the Kohen Pesach or Moed more. And so they stood before Moshe, before Elazar the Kohen, before the Nesiim, for the entire community at the entrance to the tent, saying. So they stood before Moshe, before Elazar Kohen, before all the princes. Why does it have to tell us this? Elliot, Bavakasha. Now we crow at Rashi.
Magid shelo amdu lifneim ela b'shnat ha'arba'im acher shemed aro.
So what? So this is a very good question. This is a very, you might think Rashi is saying nothing here. God forbid. God forbid. We have to see what Rashi is saying. We have to read him so carefully. Magid to tell us, Shelo amdu ifneim el b'shnat ha'arba'im achar shemet Aaron. They only stood before me and the end of the 40 years after Aaron died. So what's going on here? So what's going on here is that their situation, when did it happen? When did it happen that their father died without any sons? Rashi says it happened much earlier, but they didn't bring their case to Moshe right away. They only brought it at the end of their time in the wilderness, after Aaron died. So it was at the very end. They were waiting for Moshe to give a ruling. They only went to him when Moshe didn't give a ruling after a very long time. So they were patient. But when it wasn't addressed, they had to take it to him. Follow that? Okay. So, Lifnei Moshe, go on. So that's a big problem. Why would they bring it for Moshe and then before Elazar? If Moshe gives a ruling, of course, Elazar is going to be consistent with Moshe's ruling. So why do they have to bring it to Elazar also? Is it possible that if Moshe wouldn't know, that Elazar would know?
Sars Hamikra Darsheu
V'darsheu. So Divrei Rabbi Yoshaya. So Rabbi Yoshaya says you have to cut off the verse and interpret it, meaning to say that you read it as though they went before Elazar and then before Moshe. Read it backwards. That's how Rabbi Yoshaya is saying it.
What's his justification for doing it? In the government with the Ara, it's just making it up.
No, I mean, what's his? Well, the reason why, because it's saying it didn't feel like Rabbi Yoshaya would be saying it's not appropriate to list the student before the teacher, but it's just disrespectful. But they really went to the student first, and then when he didn't know, they went to the teacher.
The text obviously.
Right, but sometimes the text is so clearly, obviously, needs to be read in a different context. So that's how he's reading it. He's like, it doesn't make sense otherwise, that they went to Moses, he didn't know, so they went to Elazar. That wouldn't make sense. That's what he's saying. So clearly not correct. That's his, but there's a different opinion. And there's a different opinion because of the questions that Dan is raising. What's the different opinion? Go on, Elliot.
I'm a fan Mishun of Rabbi Eliezer, Omer, Elazar Omer, the baby Josh, Heidi Yoshin, Dalvin Seikulov.
They're all sitting in the base medrash. They're sitting in the base medrash studying Torah. Can you imagine, Moshe, how geschmack that is? the daughters of tzlafhcad came and they stood in the front of the base medrash. Can you imagine any girls today with a shaila, a group of girls walking into the base medrash Gavoa in Lakewood, with the thousands of boys there, and they come in and say, we have a question in front of the Rosh Yeshiva? Couldn't imagine. But these girls were so brave and courageous, they walked right in front of the base medrash. And there Moshe is steiging away with Elazar HaKohen. He's learning the chavrusa with him. And they asked this question. That's how Abba Hanan says the name of Rabbi Eliezer. A beautiful poetry. And what do they say? Avinu meis b'midbar. Our father died in the wilderness. He was not part of Korach's rebellion. He died from his own sin. And he has no son. He had no sons. Dr. Rashi, Moshe, Dr. Rashi. What does Rashi say? He had no sons. No, excuse me. He was not part of Korach's rebellion. Why do they have to say that he was not part of Korach's rebellion? Because they were coming to say he died of his own sin. So hold on 1 second. Niskaku Omar, they were saying he was not part of the people who complained, and he was also not part of the congregation of Korach that challenged God. Ella b'cheto evadomis. He died from his own sin. Go on. And he did not cause. He just sinned by himself. He didn't bring others along with him. So what was his sin? What was his sin? So this is the Gemara in Shabbos. Okay, beautiful. What? So the Mekoshesh. So the Mekoshesh we learned about earlier in the Torah, where there was a man who was Mekoshesh Eitzim, and they didn't know what to do with him. So they brought him to Moshe. What's Mekoshesh Eitzim? It's not 100% clear from the text what was the sin, what was his violation, but he gathered wood. What was the sin of the person who's Mekoshesh Eitzim?
Wood on Shabbat.
Yeah, but what's the violation there? So some say the violation was ma'amer, gathering. This is the Gemara in the bottom of Shabbos and 96b. Some say it was gathering. Some say it was the sin of carrying. Some say it went out of the tchum. But that was an individual sin. So he did this. He was Mekoshesh Eitzim. He died from his own sin, but he sinned, but he didn't cause anybody else to go against God. But Rabbi Shimon says he was from the Ma'apilim. Who are the Ma'apilim? Here, the Mekoshesh Eitzim, by the way, you can come back here to chapter 15, verse 32. There was a person who was Mekoshesh Eitzim. Okay, so anyway, that was at the end of Parsha Shach. But what was this? Who were the Mapilim? So this is a little bit more of a challenging answer because it says, Rashi says, they didn't cause others to sin. Who are the Mapilim? Remember that? The Mapilim were the ones who, after the sin of the Meraglim, Moshe said, you will not go up. And they said, no, we will go up. And they went up and they were massacred by the Amalekites. So that was slightly before the sin of the Mekoshesh Eitzim, also in Parsha Shlach. It was chapter 14, verse 44. These were the Mapilim, were the ones who had such a strong desire to enter the land, even though they were told they couldn't. So it makes sense to say that the daughters of tzlafhcad were descendants of one of the Mapilim. because they both had this like incredible desire to live in the land. But the idea that he was Mekoshe Sheitzim, what's the attraction? What's the connection there to the Mekoshe Sheitzim? So maybe it's not 100% clear what's the connection to Mekoshe Sheitzim. Okay, anyway, hey, good afternoon, Eliezer. Here's what I think we're going to do with all that wood out there. What we can do is, we could just, instead of, if we don't find somebody who's going to take the wood, we could just put up a sign and say, this is our, and say, make believe that this was a fancy artist rendition of the aftermath of the Mabul, and call it our biblical garden.
Did you see the other posted?
No, I didn't see it. You have to send it to me. Thank you. What do you think of that idea, Eliezer? What do you think of that idea? You put up a sign and say it's a biblical garden.
I want to help with DC government, so
VC government.
it's rat our bridge.
This is our backyard. We can do it. All right, anyway, so we go on. The next pasuk says, okay. So then they said, Lama yigara pasuk Dawud, Lama yigara Hashem Avinu mitoch mishpachto. Why should the name of our father be diminished from his family? Ki ein lo ben, just because he has no son. Give us an inheritance amongst our father's brothers. That's a very powerful phrase. Lama yigara. Why should the name of our father be omitted? Okay, Ellie, you want to read the Rashi? Pasuk Dawud.
Sure.
Lama yigara Hashem Avinu.
Anu lakom ben umadot. Ve'im ein nekevot chashuvot zara tati yavam imanu yavam.
Okay, so let's see what he's saying here. Let's go. Hello, Moshe. Good afternoon. What?
That's two other people offering three.
All right, thank you. For chapter 27, verse Dalet, says, Lama yigara Hashem Avinu. If we're in place of our son, to Yitnu Anu Yerusha Seinu. If we are coming in the place of a son, then give us our inheritance. Vim einan akevos chashuvos zara or zara. If the females are not considered a son, tisyabim imenu liyavim. Then let our mother go marry her brother-in-law. Laws of Yibam. Laws of Yibam is if the husband died with no children, then the wife goes and marries the husband's brother. But if there is a daughter, then she doesn't do Yibam. So he's saying we're obviously his descendants. Otherwise, we should be allowed to go and our mother should go and do Yibam. And the fact that she's not going and doing Yibam, it's clearly the case that we're considered descendants. That was they knew how to learn. The daughters of tzlafhcad knew how to learn. That was what they argued. Go on, Elliot, next Rashi. Ki ein lo ben.
Ha im haya lo ben lo hayu tavot klum magid shechach maniot hayo.
Right, so they said the only reason why we're coming here with this argument is because our father has no sons. But if he had sons, we wouldn't make any claim. We wouldn't make any claim. So this shows that they were very wise. Chachmaniot hayu. They were very wise. They understood the law. They understood the law. Okay, and now actually this parsha has so many scribal oddities. We saw already the broken vav. We saw the kuf of kinoas kinasi as three tagin on it, and we now are going to see another one. Vayakrev Moshe as mishpatan. Moshe brought their mishpatan, their case with Hashem, but the nun of mishpatan is supposed to be big. And is it big in your chumash? In my chumash, it's not big. What? Yeah, it's bigger. We have a big writer. We have to look. Who do we look at? Let's see what he says. Always look at the material. And there's also another one. There's a Piska B'Emtz pasuk. There's a break in the middle of the verse about verse stops right in the middle. So let's see. Is there a big? Okay, so hold on. What are we up to? Chapter 27, verse 5. Paragraph Zion Pasuk K. Here it is, a big nun, and they don't. The Baal Turim doesn't even mention it. Nun Rabati. Okay, doesn't mention it. Okay, Moshe is Mishpatam of Hashem. Moshe brings their mishpat before God. What is it? Okay, Moshe, will you read it for us?
This Alma halach minalim. Very kind, nifrag. So that's our Lomar. The Hidover, I say, each said,
Right. So the first answer is, what does it mean they brought their judgment? So it says, Nis'alma halach mimenu, the law was concealed from Moshe. The Kan Nifra, why did Moshe not know the halacha? Al Shanato Atara, because he took a crown. He assumed authority. Lomara Davar Asher Yikshemikem Takribunala. He said, the matter that's too hard for you to bring to me. When did he say this?
Judges.
Exactly, in Parashas Yisrael. I mean, really, it's repeated in Devarim, but it was when Yisrael came to him. So this idea is telling us okay, so why does Rashi have to say that Moshe is being punished here? It's a very important distinction that the Maharal makes in understanding of that. There's not the only time. Actually, Moshe asks Hashem the halacha 4 different times in the Torah. He asks it also by Pesach Sheni. But now, actually, I wrote that passage today in the Torah, Baruch Hashem. So it says there that they came to Moshe, and Moshe didn't know. Look at the language here. It says there, I brought the question from Moshe in chapter 9, verse 6. And there, it says they brought the question. It says, and they said, Vayomer Moshe, Imdu Vashma, in tzlafhcad, stay here and listen to what God will say. And then God went and spoke to Moses. Moshe did not have to go and ask God. God just went and spoke to Moshe. Also, by the Mikoshesh, what happens with the Mikoshesh? Says the same thing. Chapter 15, verse 32. It says, they took him out. They didn't know what to do to him. God said to Moshe. In both those places, God spoke to him. Hey, Eitan, how you doing? God spoke to Moshe without Moshe having to ask. And also, the Mikalel, God told him what to do. But here, Moshe has to go and ask God. He didn't just say he didn't know. God didn't come to him. So God is punishing him that he has to go. Why? Because he said the difficult questions you'll bring to me. Okay. So that's the vort there. Go on. What's the next part of Rashi? Davar acher. Parsha Zu. Okay, so another point is Rashi saying, what does it mean they brought their matter to Moshe? It's emphasizing that really this passage should have been written by Moshe. It wasn't that Moshe was being punished, but it was to their benefit that they went ahead and loved this passage so much. They loved the land so much that they merited that it was written through them. That, yes, Shekoach. So that's the idea here. And we just do, we have one more. The daughters of tzlafhcad are speaking properly. The son titain lahem achuzas nachla besoch achei aviem vavartim esachos aviem. They will stop here because we got to daven mincha. But I want to say one thing before everybody runs up to daven mincha. Baruch Hashem, that God willing,